And that's the goal. If we just get to break even, but we get to make this, then we win. We won. We got it out there and made it, and people have it and they like it. That's it. We win.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Kevin, aka Toying Around, and you're watching Toy of the Week, where every week I try to do a new video on a toy that I really like, that makes me really excited for collecting, whether it's new or old, or in hand or unreleased. Just last week, Super7 announced their Super7 Ultimates TMNT Party Wagon, and this thing looks incredible, and I thought, you know what, instead of just hearing my voice and looking at pictures, why don't we hear it from the boss man himself, Super7's very own Brian Flynn.
Howdy, howdy. Oh, there we go. Now I
Yeah.
can say howdy, howdy, right? Howdy, howdy. There's a snake in my boots. There you go. That's what it sounds like if I start saying howdy. All of a sudden I turned into Woody.
Thank you for coming back. I had a lot of fun last time doing an unboxing with you. I recently came back from Anaheim. I was at Designer Con, and you guys were there. Your company was represented. I was hoping to. I was like, oh, maybe Brian will be there, but
I would have loved to have been there. So, okay, first, to be clear, the San Diego store was set up at Designer Con.
right.
Probably next year we'll go as the brand, but the San Diego store was set up. I was hoping to go, but not to derail us immediately, but if you follow me on Instagram at all, which you shouldn't, because I never post anymore. There's been a couple of things, like I've just been running through some different health stuff that I was wrapping up on, and I was just coming out of a final surgery that I had to take, so I was not able to fly, and
Okay.
I was not able to attend, which was actually more disappointing, I think, for my oldest daughter than anybody, because she had gone 2 years ago and was like, "This is the greatest thing ever. I never knew this many creative people in the world. Like, this is so cool." And then she hasn't been able to go back. And then so
Oh
she wasn't
no.
able to go to this one because I couldn't go because they had postponed a couple things. I was like, oh man. It would have been a
Well,
lot of fun because it's just such a fun show because you can just kind of catch up with people and
mhm.
stuff. It's not like wall to wall, got to get there, kind of thing. It's more like-minded people hanging out in a room.
It's cool. It's you can see from behind me the kind of stuff that I'm generally into, action figures. It was a bit of a different scene, but it's still really cool, and I think Super7 being there, it kind of fits because I always see the way I see the Ultimates TMNT line. For me, it's more of like it's leaning closer to an artistic designer style toy versus your mass produced everything on nothing against Hasbro or Mattel, people who make those toys,
No, they're great toys.
because they're awesome. It's just made in a different capacity. So I've always seen it as a more designer like toy.
I mean, and that's where we come from. I mean, it's Designer Con now. Before that, I'm trying to remember the name of that convention, but that convention's been around for at least a decade in some form or another. It used to be in Pasadena, but it literally grew as an offshoot of, like, we all used to have booths at San Diego
Mhm.
next to each other when San Diego was smaller. It was still
Right.
gigantic at the time, but you could have all these artist-driven companies and spaces in San Diego. And as San Diego got big, it kind of all got pushed out. And that's when it became, and I'm blanking on the name of the convention that was called what it was called before it was called Designer Con. But it became the convention where they moved everybody that used to be at San Diego went to Designer Con instead. So those are all the people that we started doing shows with 20 plus years ago and setting up as. So those are our peers in a lot of ways. And obviously we've moved into a different space in a lot of ways, but we still make a lot of that product. It still informs, I think, how you see us go after certain things, like when we're talking about the worst, or how we apply colorway theory sometimes to toys. But yeah, that's our crew. I don't know. There's a lot of people in there, obviously, I don't know, but that scene, that's the place that we all come from. And so when we go down there, it's like, half those booths, I've known those people for 10, 15, 20 years sometimes.
Awesome. Hopefully catch you in one of those in the future.
Next year for sure.
Yeah,
Barring unforeseen circumstances like this year, I will be there.
awesome.
It's a
Well,
great show.
I hope you are recovering well, and thank you for being here.
Oh, of course.
Um,
We're talking
so
about toys. Why am I not going to be there? Like,
oh my
we're talking about toys and I can call it work?
put it on the clock, put on the
Exactly.
timesheet. Well, I don't know if you heard in the intro, I want to talk about a toy that gets me really excited about collecting, and you guys dropped a behemoth earlier last week, the Super7 Ultimates Party Wagon.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull up a picture here.
And I'll see here if I can trying to do, it's, daylight savings time. It gets dark at like 4 o'clock and whatever, but like how I can set up under the lights or whatever. But we're talking about this thing.
Oh, oh my. Okay.
So
That's
I'm gonna do a thing here. Let's see here. I probably should have prepared a little bit better, right? Everybody's like, dude, you knew the interview was coming and you didn't bother to figure out what you were doing. It's like, no, I went from
not
meeting
what
to
I'm thinking at all.
So this over here, I'm gonna switch to my screen glasses because I'm old and I have to update my prescription. So now these are better for me to see the screen at. This is what you have to look forward to, kids. I got more than one pair of glasses now. Let's see if I do that.
I'll keep that PSA in there for the actual kids. I won't edit that out.
Exactly. Hey kids, get ready to get old. You get more than one set of glasses when you never had them have them before. All right. Then I got to do this, I suppose. Something like that. All right. Party van. I said party van because I can never decide if I want to call it turtle van or party wagon.
Right.
That can be a point of contention for people. Is it the party wagon or is it the turtle van?
What stage of the process would you call this? I know there's a lot of terminology. I can never get it straight for this one you have in front of you.
This is still in the prototyping stage.
Okay.
So this is obviously a 3D output. I'll scoot it back a little bit. This is a 3D output. And then this was more than anything was to check size. Now, this is not the final size. The final size is actually about 10% bigger. So it's about 2 inches longer than this one.
Oh, wow.
Because, same thing. We were just going through like, how does it, you can put it into a rendering program and put stuff in there and it like, oh, it all fits. But then when you get it in real life, it's like, oh, that's way too tight. So this was about a month before we were ready to go. We sent this thing off to be printed and painted to use for photography and different stuff. So it's a painted 3D output, but it is close to beautiful scale. But it's still smaller than the actual thing will be, which is kind of ridiculous because it's gigantic. But it has to be gigantic to hold all the turtles.
Before we go any further, you can pre-order this right now on super7.com. From now until December, I just had the date. Before we get any further, you can pre-order this Party Wagon right now on super7.com. You have until December 14th, 2021. You have this 3D printed model there. Like you said, it's for some photography. Did my friend Johnny get his hands on this?
Yeah, some of it's for photography. A lot of it is just, like I said, to make sure that it feels like what you're supposed to. Like, okay, it looks good on screen, but that doesn't mean it always is going to look good in real life. And I'll use a perfect example. Like this thing showed up and I'm doing it reverse. There's these weird little divots that showed up that we weren't expecting here and here underneath from where the windows were. And so it's like, oh shit, we didn't see those in the way, all the files come together. They were hidden. And so it's like, we've got to go in and clean that up and fill that in. So there's a bunch of stuff that happens there. I'm looking at the screen trying to make these things and I'm like, oh, it's mirror. So I'm going the wrong way on everything.
I'm still not used to it, so it's okay. Everything's backwards.
Let's see here. You've got the spring-loaded arm for the foot smasher. Let's see. This isn't because it's a 3D print. But bombs roll out on here.
Mhm.
Doors. I was about to say the doors, wrong hand. Doors. And then on the top, it opens not like the toy opened, but like the cartoon opened.
Yeah,
The
you
same
remember
thing.
from the intro when they all shoot out.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where then are we what evolutions are we making where obviously when they made the original one, the easiest way is just make a single hinge, but like, oh, it should have been like this,
Mhm.
or any number of things.
And is that the focus? I know with the Ultimates Turtles figures, it's very close to the original toy, but there are some liberties where you just add a fun accessory or something. You add an extra expression. I like with the GI Joe stuff, you added the extra accessory that you saw in a video game ad, I think, from a magazine.
Are you talking about that with Cobra Commander with the
Yeah,
snake wrapped around the world? That's the video game ad that they used to run in comic books.
right.
It was holding this globe with the snake wrapped around it. I was just like, as a kid, that image was just so striking. I was like, oh, we got to totally make that.
Yeah, so for this van, are you trying to stay as close to the toy as possible, or it's a mishmash of whatever works well, looks best?
Yeah, it's kind of a mishmash makes it sound far more unappealing. But
Okay.
we try to like really think about it. Like, okay, what are the things they were limited to last time that they couldn't do for
Mm,
price, for mass market? What are the things that we wished it would have had that it didn't? And then what are places where you can sort of evolve the visual language of it? And I think in some of the promo photos, especially like on the insides, I don't know if I can make it so we can see
Oh,
it.
hold on. I can help you with that.
Oh, okay. You can help me with that.
This is what I
Like,
was doing when you caught me picking my nose.
uh, I'm not gonna say that that's exactly what we saw, but
Inside.
um,
Here we go.
yeah, you can see like the boombox is removable. It comes out and everything, but like sort of leveling it up, like doing some with the seats with all the duct tape and everything, but you can't see it in this photo. Like here, it's kind of hard to see, but like built into the wall there, like, oh, that sure looks like a retro console, doesn't it? Like that might look like a Nintendo built into the wall.
Nice. Oh,
And
like right here.
yep, there's a
Cool.
there's a Nintendo and there's so you go in and like how do we update some of the things that are in there to make it cool and have different there's attention to detail without overwhelming it with just a bunch of noise. So
Hmm.
there's always that fine line, like how we handle the speakers with the turtle shells and all that. So there's just a bunch of little things that are happening in there, like the pizza dripping down the side and the wrenches and stuff. Like, oh, okay, this is the actual van where they're in. Like you can see the TCRI canister, the ooze up on the wall there. If you scroll up there, you can
Up
see the
on the
TCRI
wall.
canister there with the ooze
Right.
green
Oh yeah.
above.
That's so cool.
So there's and stuff like that where we're hiding a lot of little Easter eggs and things inside there on the sculpting. And if you see them, that's great. So it's not the same thing. Like if you're talking about the vintage turtle van, it's just like here's the outside shell. The inside walls are just the inside of the shell of the outside. Like we're not making a separate piece to go inside. We're not making a separate piece for how you handle the undersides of the floor and different things. Because it was made for efficiency. This is in some ways not made for efficiency. It's made for
I don't want to get too far ahead into the van without this very important question first. Who is the best Ninja Turtle?
Oh, see, this is the problem. Everybody always asks me what's my favorite turtle, and I'm like, Casey Jones. And they're like, that's not a turtle. I'm like, yeah, but my favorite guy was always Casey Jones. So, in as much, um,
Well, why is it Casey Jones?
if I'm having to pick a turtle, probably Donatello. I realize it's kind of a cliche answer, but but it's like, what's your favorite turtle? Casey Jones. Casey Jones is my favorite turtle.
And why would it be Casey Jones? I am intrigued by that answer.
Why?
Yeah.
He just had sort of an enigmatic quality with the mask. You didn't really quite know who he was, but he was human. He wasn't a turtle, so he was a little easier to identify with. And then with the hockey sticks and baseball bats, like in the back and everything, there was just sort of a really like it was just more gnarly and a little bit more intimidating. Like with the turtles, like, yes, they had size and nunchucks and shit, but it was like, that's what you expected for a ninja. But like a guy with a broken hockey stick, that's kind of like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. Like you ran into that guy. If you ran into an alley and one guy had some nunchucks and some throwing stars, but another guy was just like, all I need is this broken hockey stick, I would be more worried about the broken hockey stick guy than the nunchuck guy.
So you're more concerned with like raw power and emotion kind of fighting versus trained combat.
Yeah, and it just wasn't. He wasn't. I was a little bit older, so it wasn't as
Right.
much like, oh, like eating pizza is a crazy thing. Like,
Right.
oh, we're eating pizza. I like pizza too. It's crazy. It was like, we're cool. Like, I get it. We all like pizza. Like, kind of thing. So Casey Jones was just much more like, it was almost like a fake version of Jason. Like they took Jason from Friday the 13th and sort of, made it more friendly. Like he doesn't have the hockey mask, but he's got this similar mask. And instead we're going to give him the hockey sticks instead of a knife, but he's still going to fight people and mess them up. And you're like, all right, okay. I mean, I guess he's almost like, in some ways he's built upon the same archetype as like the Punisher and all those other sort of anti-heroes.
Yeah, he's like a vigilante almost.
Exactly.
Brian, after we did the unboxing last time, what I really like about what you do as the head of this company, you go a lot out there and you talk about you kind of, I don't want to say educate people. I don't think it's your job to educate people, but you do reveal a lot in terms of like, how different things work depending on the size of the companies, economies of scale, manufacturing, things like that. I saw you break down like, hey, if Target wants however many units put in X spot in 1 year and it's worth this much, and you broke down the whole thing. I love that kind of stuff. It's really cool, and that's why I like talking to you, and it's cool that you go around the circuits talking about your products. There is of course the turtle van in front of you, and there is the I guess 450-pound turtle van shaped elephant in the room.
There's the price tag that no one on earth likes, which, to be fair, I think, which we've talked about, is like, we didn't expect that it was going to be this expensive either.
Mm-hmm.
But there's sort of a thing, you're in this catch-22 where either you go all the way and design it,
mm-hmm.
or you pull it way back. And if the middle ground for anything kind of sucks. So it either needs to be sort of like a really stripped down, pared down, manufacturing wise pared down van that's really affordable that everybody can get into,
Mm-hmm.
or which you can get from somebody else. You can get not exactly this thing, but you can get a pared down van. Playmates made one not too long ago, or
Right here.
if you're going to get, or are you going to get the sort of like the one that has all the bells and whistles? And quite frankly, there's sort of this there's this thing where it's like, if we're going to make this thing and make it right and make it do everything we want and make it feel like the toy you're going to want, unfortunately, the price tag becomes what it is. We thought originally that this van was going to be closer to like $350. And instead, when it was all said and done, it was like, if you want to make this, it can be $450. Now I can pull some stuff out of here to make it $350, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like people want to say, where it's like, lose the pizza rims and sell it for $350. It's like, that's not going to make it. It's more how you're manufacturing it. The money is not in this,
Mm-hmm.
that's not making a difference. Like the fact that this thing hinges it can't in the resin version fold down. That's not making a difference. It's the sheer scale of all the parts and the metal it takes to make so much of this stuff, and how many layers that you're putting together. Like I was saying that earlier, and maybe it's a bit lost. Like if you think about a traditional toy vehicle, what you normally buy, like outside of it is like your turtle van now, like if you hold on to it, like here's the outside wall. The inside wall is that same piece of plastic, just slightly sculpted there.
Right.
And you're going to have some extruded parts where you're going to see where it's covering up for like a screw hole or anything else like that, but it's one piece. And in this case, we're making it with trapped windows and everything else where it's like we're tooling the outside. Oh, as I knock that. Well, and then we're making a separate interior piece, and then we're tooling the outside piece. So, and then you're fitting them together so that they're perfectly clean. You don't see any screws, you don't see any assembly, you don't see anything. Well, that right there is between the two walls, double the amount of tooling, plus with like the windows for case, it's not a huge amount, but it's like, it ends up being, 220% more than a single wall piece.
Right.
But that's how you get depth. That's how you get all the different facets. That's how you get multi-sided parts. And, it just gets into that thing where if all of a sudden I strip out a whole bunch of this stuff to get it to 350, I'm making it up, like saying I stripped out some stuff to get it to 350. It's like you might as well just keep stripping it down to get it to 200. But at 200, it's not that different than, I couldn't have gotten it to 200 anyways, but it's not that different than what you can already buy.
Right.
I'm not trying to make that thing. I'm trying to make, here's the wackiest version of this turtle van that's ever existed. In doing so, by proxy of what we're making, it's not necessarily the turtle van that everybody wants. There's going to be some people that don't want it. And by proxy of how we're making it, it also means that the quantity we're making is drastically smaller. And, there is a definite misconception, and I'm not saying this negatively, because I've run into these over the years about any number of things, about even how businesses run or how healthcare works or whatever, is that, I'm assuming that anybody that's going to spend the time listening to this interview is very interested in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they've got a lot of friends that like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Most of those friends, I assume, are also going to be online or through social. And they're probably in a group or forum someplace, a Facebook group, whatever. And there's 1,000 guys, 2,000 members in that forum, maybe even 10,000 members in that forum. And they're like, everybody I know collect, there's thousands of us. And it's like, all right, let's start backwards. Maybe there's 10,000 people in that forum. How many people are talking about turtles versus buying it? All right, now you're talking about 5,000 people that actively buy lots of turtles. Now from that, how many people are buying just what Playmates makes? How many people are buying only vintage turtles? How many people are buying what NECA makes? How many people are buying what Art makes? And you keep chopping those numbers down. It goes from 5,000 people that buy turtles to, only 25 of us still buy modern turtles instead of vintage turtles. And of those 2,500, only 1,000 of those people actually buy what Super7 makes. And when you really start breaking this down, it's like, I think that there's people, because I hear it in the comments, everybody wants this. Millions of people want this. If you just made it right. And it's like, do you not think if I could sell that many of these turtle vans, I wouldn't be?
Right.
The reality is I can't. And though that many people aren't there. The difference is when you look into that porthole to online that you have, you've focused your lens to only on those people. So you're hearing what you are saying and you assume that that's true for everyone. And the reality is, and I don't know how it is for you, but I work in a place that obviously makes toys, but when I leave this office between here and my house, I don't run into a single person of all the millions of people that live in San Francisco that collect toys. Like, unless it's a friend of mine, somebody
Right.
I already know. Like, the amount of people outside of this in the real world or whatever, like, we're talking about a very small subset of people. But because we're interested in it, that's where we spend preponderance is the wrong word. Somebody's going to get mad at me. That's where we spend the vast majority of our time, is talking to people that have similar interests to us online, because in our real life, we don't have those people that have those same interests.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm going to go look for content about things that I'm interested in. But the reality coming back around is there are far, far, far less people out there buying this stuff than you think there were. Because if there were far more people, there would be more people making it, and it would be available in more places. And that's the crux of it. And there's no hard, fast rule to that, because a case like Turtles is a very interesting license, because people are like, there's a lot of places to buy Turtles. And because there's a lot of places to buy Turtles, because it is a popular license, it's even harder to sell Turtles product than, for example, when I make Old Dirty Bastard from Wu-Tang.
Right.
Nobody else is making ODB, so ODB is going to sell way better than any Turtle I'm ever going to make.
Didn't you bring it back a second time too, like a second run of it?
We're bringing them back a third time.
Third time, nice.
Because we can't keep up with it. But that's the perfect example. Like, is you have so many choices if you want to buy Turtles product. And every one of them has a slightly different point of view, because Turtles has been very popular over the years. That actually selling Turtles product is a very narrow sliver, unless your Playmate's selling it in the boys action figure line at Target and Walmart. So we've got to have our point of view about what we're making for our line of Turtles. And if that's something that you as a turtle collector are interested in, then you can come on over and buy from us. But if we're not doing the exact thing you want, then you shift your focus over here, and there's another company making that. And then you can shift your focus over here, and there's another company making that. And so, it's a very, I don't know. I feel like I'm over talking it at this point, but it's not, I think, what the common theory is of like, oh, you're selling, millions of these things, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of these things. It's like, no, we're not. That's a different business, and that's not the business we're in. Does that, let me make another bad example here. Like, any of us that ever went to high school or college, at some point they tried to give you sort of an economics class or a business class, and they show you these Bezier curves where it goes like this and like this, where it's cost and quantity, and they try to equate it on like global scale with like rice or steel or commodities, where the lower the price, the more you sell. The lower the price, the more you sell. That may very well be true for rice and steel and corn or beef or whatever. But when it comes to 30 to 50-year-old adult males and some females that would like turtle vans, that Bezier curve has no correlation. There's a very fixed amount of people that are looking for it. And if you make 5 more pieces than that amount of people, doesn't matter what price those 5 are, they will never sell. So there is not an inverse correlation to if you make it cheaper, you'll sell more. There's more of a correlation of what kind of product are you making? What's your point of view around the product? And are there customers that are looking for that? And in that regard, for what we try to do within the Ultimates line, which is really, it's got it all, and it's the attention to detail in the finishing, in how the figures work, how we put it together, like it sort of begats sort of the end product to a degree. And in that, that's how you end up with a $450 van. And I don't think there was any illusions on our side that there was going to be a lot of people that were not happy about that.
Right.
But it's also going to be the difference between, selling 10% more vans, not selling 100% more vans. So instead of cheaping out on something, let's just fucking make it rad. And
Right.
in either you want it or you don't. And it doesn't insult me if you don't want it, because we're making our version of the van. And if you don't want our version of the van, you'll be able to get somebody else's version of the van instead. And that's okay. It's okay to not like some things I make and like other things I make.
That's what I've always liked about your outlook on it. There's no gun to your head that you have to buy this. Just
no, but and maybe I'm projecting answers to questions that aren't being posed to me. But it's not like I'm trying to fuck people over or see how much I can get them to pay for it. It's just like our take on it is, if I'm going to make the turtle van I want, I'm going to go full crazy and make it as bonkers as I want all the bells and whistles in it. And, somebody will say, well, a bell and whistle will be an LED light or whatever. But like, I've always hated batteries in toys because they always corrode and they quit working. And it's just a hang up I have. So I don't like putting batteries in it, but it's like, here's the version of it that we wanted to make. And yeah, it's expensive. And maybe it's the right version for you, or maybe it's not. But my first goal is to make the one I want. And then hopefully I can find other people that also want the one I want. But if you don't want the one I want, it's okay. It's fine. It doesn't insult me, because I'm not making it for you first. I'm making it for me first.
Right. Well, if you have any doubts, I think it looks incredible. The features look incredible. But before you announced it, was there any hesitation or, to making something at this size and this cost? And then at that point, was there one epiphanal moment where it was just like, you know what, let's just go for it. It'll work. We're gonna do it.
It's a catch-22. You never know quite how things are going to be reacted to.
Right.
Obviously, with big play sets or vehicles, we started first with Snake Mountain. And, that was very nerve-wracking because it's a lot of money. But I mean, if you've seen it before, it's the size of a small city and it's ridiculous. But it's also hollow on the inside. And so, there's this thing where Snake Mountain was so big, but it's like, yes, but it's big, but it's hollow by design. These things are not hollow the same way. So there's misnomers on how much work it takes to get these things to look right. And then we did the Thunder Tank, and people seem to be very excited about that. And we got immediately upon releasing the Thunder Tanks, it was like, where's the Turtle Van? Where's Turtle Van? Where's Turtle Van? And it was like, we'll get there, but let's sort of go through this one at a time. We've gotten through engineering and everything on Thunder Tank. And so now it's really in the fine tuning of like test shots and making it actually work and function. But
Awesome.
That's the easiest part. It's the most time consuming part in some ways, but it's also the easiest part. The hardest part is getting it to that part, getting it through tooling. So now that one's sort of done, we were like, okay, let's try and start another one. Like the turtle collector from us seems to be very, very much interested in what we would do around the turtle van. So that's why we decided to do it. But at the same time, it's also one of those things like, this is the turtle van and this is what we're going to make. And then when we're done with the turtle van and we've delivered the turtle van, then maybe we'll look at the next thing. Whether that's the Technodrome or a blimp or any number of other things, which would be cool. But let's see how this goes first and see how people react to it. And if people like it and people want to buy it. The reality is it's just, I mean, and I say this, and then there's always some guy that wants to debate me on it, but it's like, if you go to the boys action aisle, you don't see very many spaceships or vehicles because they're a pain in the ass to make. They require a lot of engineering and they're expensive. And far, far less people buy vehicles or play sets than action figures. So if we go back and we say, whatever, we said our Facebook group was 10,000 people, only 5,000 people buy toys. If 5,000 people buy figures, 500 people buy play sets or vehicles. You have to have space to display it. You've got to have room for it. They're more expensive. Like lots of people, I'm sure that you can think about your collecting journey or people that you know that at one point they were buying everything from a line and then they were like, I can't hang and I'm just going to buy the figures, especially if you're talking about vintage. Like I got rid of all the vehicles because I don't have room for them.
Yeah.
That's a big one with G.I. Joe collectors, and vehicles are a really big deal with G.I. Joe collectors. But you talk to G.I. Joe collectors and 2/3 of them are like, I had to get rid of all the vehicles because there's just no room for it. Like, where are you going to put them? So it's a much smaller group of people that want these things than I think people believe that there are. And I'm circling back around to the same thing, but it's like, that's why you don't see many vehicles. And when you see vehicles, it's usually at holiday. Leaning into Christmas, all of a sudden there's a whole lot of vehicles on that bottom shelf. Oh, wow. Because that's when you're going to spend that money to buy that big funny thing for your kid for Christmas.
Yeah, it's going to look great under the tree.
Yeah, all of a sudden, magically, X-Wings are back in stock and TIE Fighters. Like, where did those come from? Those are great. Where were those the last 8, 10, 9 months of the year? Oh, yeah, because people don't buy them. That's why.
You mentioned earlier, settling on this price point. You could have taken off this.
Settling, it just the price.
Deciding on.
I hate to say it.
Yeah, deciding on it. Settling has different implications.
Accepting it.
Yes.
Is that we went through the stages of grief and got to acceptance. That's
the stages of pricing.
We went through anger. We went through bargaining. What was it? What is it? Is it anger, bargaining?
I don't know.
Acceptance? Are those the 4 stages of grief?
I don't know off the top of my head. I might be thinking of the steps that people have to go through in AA or something. I think I'm confusing something in my head.
It might be. It's probably not dissimilar.
But before deciding to move ahead at this price point, you said, if I took a little piece out here and there, it would just be like a negligible difference. Was it at a point where it was even more grand than what you've shown now, and then you've taken off something to dial it to here?
Not really, because we're still driving backwards from the original series, animated series. We're driving back from the original van, and at a certain point, I'm not going to manufacture sort of fake things that don't. It's not like, and it's got a water cannon that rises out of the center. It's like that didn't come with it. That doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So no, it's pretty much got it all. I mean, like I said, it's a little tricky because this is the resin thing, but it's the same thing. Like, these are old classic VW bus windows. So if they're following the very first VW bus, so these don't work. But the real ones, the windows are operable and they'll flip up. So all those little details that we wanted to put into it, where it's like, oh, okay, this is like, if we're going backwards from a VW van, this is what we would have done. And this is how we're sort of, I don't know, doing it all.
That already looks incredible, and I can't believe it's going to be another 10% larger.
Yeah, it's another. I think it's like 10.3 or something, but it's like 2 more inches on the back, and then some of the stuff, just wanting to do all the stuff in the back with this thing. If I can get it to swing open, just like, there's some fun stuff in there with like the fan belt with the turtle shell, and there's a couple other little cool things in there. But like the same thing, like all the lights will be separate pieces of clear red, like the back tail lights will be clear red plastic, separate inject pieces dropped in, then with like the silver backing so that they blink like and look like a real tail light. It's just little things like that. Rather than like it's just painted.
That's awesome. I think it says 20.5 inches long, 13.8 inches tall, and 12.5 inches wide. I can look at all the numbers on the screen, but I'm really terrible until I get something in hand to really see. Like, do you have like an Ultimates figure there to put it next to that to?
I just put these back. I shouldn't have put these back in the boxes.
Oh, you reboxed it.
It's not unboxed because I've already taken it out and I just got to pop it back in.
Have you, let me ask you this candidly. This happens to me a lot. Have you ever put away an Ultimates figure and then you realize you missed one piece and then you're like, God dang, I got to go through all these like, different stages.
Are we talking weekly or daily?
I mean, every time I unbox an Ultimates figure on an episode and I go back and I put everything away,
you put it all away and it's like there's a shooting star or a fist or something.
I forgot like a slip cover, but it's already in the brown shipper box. One time I had them swapped with the wrong figure. Has that ever happened to you?
I have all of that and more. Donnie, how you doing, Donnie?
Oh, hello, Donatello.
Hi, guy. All right. So let's see here. I'm trying to get it into light so that maybe it makes more sense this side. So we're not getting totally fish-eyed with it. Let's see here.
Oh my goodness.
So that's sort of the scale, and a lot of the scale was driven especially by the backside so that you could fit two figures sitting across from each other without knocking knees. But then even then, like same thing, like even at this scale with the there we go. Like the seat belt's not on here right now because it's made out of resin, but then you put him in the seat belt and everything, but making it so it's slide like he can, assuming his hands down, he can be in the seat and fully slide in and
swing out.
Yeah, without any issues. That they all sit in the chair, seats and everything properly.
Okay, so now that I kind of have an idea, that's
like if here
that's awesome.
Now that they're at this, if we put them at the same plane, if you will, it's a big ass bust them up, fuck them up wagon. Sorry, kids. I'm sorry I've ruined this PG show. But same thing. It's like it's not like a dainty little van. It's like, no, we're gonna go fight the foot, and this thing's got a giant armored, canopy that comes down with antennas and guns on it and stuff.
Heck
like,
yeah.
This is a big van. It's not a little van.
One feature that I hope it doesn't have is the braking tenderizer door that was on my original Turtle van and on my recent remake, because I'm sure that's been...
You mean the spring that breaks?
Yeah.
No, we're not going to put the spring in there so that it's automatically snapping back. We'll let you open it up and close it as you need to.
Beautiful.
Thing, because it just... It's that kind of annoying thing. Like, I want it to stay open. Quit closing. Like,
quick, I'm going to read through these features as fast as I can. Room for 6 ultimate scale figures. Opening roof, functional opening front doors. Awesome. Swing out foot tenderizer side door with integrated seat. Safari style clear windshields. Swing down windshield.
That's the flip up.
Yes.
And that's based on the original VW bus. The very first ones where you flipped up the windshields out. Safari
okay. Swing down windshield protective armor, rolling wheels with real rubber tires.
Yep.
I love this. You're giving us your best.
And then the tires have like a pizza tread to them.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't know that. Accessible engine compartment, clear side and rear windows, removable ooze canister, removable wacko bombs ×2, removable pizza rims, removable boombox, and radar dish, winch and tow hook with real steel chain.
Yep.
I love the real chains.
Real chains.
Detailed interior, exterior, engine, and undercarriage sculpting. 4 turtle headwear accessories, 7-piece tool set with toolbox, damage mouser, and sticker sheets.
Yeah. The damage mouser was, this one was super fun. Like, so they've run it over.
Right.
The original one that we sculpted looked more like roadkill, and they were like, mousers aren't animals. That's just gross. Like, they're robots. Like, change it. We're like, you're right. You're correct. But like, oh no, I've been run over by a turtle van.
Yeah, those are great. And then if you have the when the mouser pack comes out, I mean, I like what you said about, you know, you'll see how this release does before, you know, or moving forward, considering other vehicles. I'm going to ask you, what kind of vehicle, what other turtle vehicles stand out to you? And I want to let everyone know this in no way is an indication of what's coming down the line.
No, I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier. The other two that people ask for all the time are the Technodrome and the Blimp. Those seem to
Right.
be the two everybody's just like, yo, when you gonna get on that? I'm gonna actually, I don't know that anybody cares about it that way. But at least make it so that you can see half my face rather than just this part
Just
of my
your
face.
beard. Well, are those the ones that you would want though, or not just the fan requests?
Well, it's always a fine line. I would go Blimp before Technodrome personally,
Right.
you know, just because it's wackier. But it's that same thing of like, okay, then what do we do with like, how do you make it? What else do you do to the Blimp to really
Right.
plus it up?
Because
But
you're not really about
to
making
be
like a
honest,
one-to-one.
I haven't thought about it in grand detail at this point since I'm still working on this one.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, a modern day. I don't know if you ever had the pizza shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That probably wouldn't work in modern toy safety standards, motorized shooting, you know, shooting plastic pizza discs at your siblings' faces and eyes. I don't think that would fly. Well,
Probably
poor
not,
choice of
but that
words.
doesn't mean that you couldn't take it and make it something that where you could knock them out or something like that.
With all the concerns of people's voicings concern about the pricing, would a Kickstarter have made any type of difference?
I think the only reason that this one isn't Kickstartery like the last two were
Mm,
is simply something where we were like, now that we've done it twice before, we have a certain degree of confidence in this
awesome.
product and we're excited about it. The reality is, if no one buys it, yeah, I mean, we would go back and say, look, nobody wanted it, nobody bought it. Here's a refund. Thank you for your support. But I feel fairly confident that we should get to where we need to go because it's not crazy. And we're not expecting it to be like, oh, we sold shitloads of these. It's going to be like, no, we sold a little bit of those. Like, it's a very at $450, it's just not a thing that everybody can afford.
Right.
And I'm sympathetic to it, but it's also not my place to be making the cheap version. And somebody right now is going to jump onto that. And what I mean by that is that's Playmates' jobs.
Yeah.
That's what they do. It's not what we do. Like, our license and our category and our price points are dictated by holes to a degree in the market.
Oh, for sure.
And this is where we're allowed to make toys. But if I was making, you know, $40, $60 turtle van, that would immediately get tossed out. There's no way, because Playmates already does that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're much bigger. There's no need for another one of those in the market. So,
And then also, what's the point of making the exact same thing, right? You guys do it a certain way. It fits with your Ultimates figures. You add your touches to it that make it what's sitting in front of you.
yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the Super7 version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's that fine line, because I think a lot of people that, you know, are upset about the price point are upset more because they're interested in what we're doing. They like the stuff that we're making and they'd like to be able to get this too,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't at that price. And so therefore, you know, it's that same thing, which is like, I like this. I would like to get more of it, but you've made it in a way that's inaccessible to me, and therefore, it's not a good feeling. It's sort of like, hey, I want to come hang out with you guys after school, and you're like, yeah, no, you're not cool enough. Like, I'm not trying to make it like, hey, you can't hang out with us because you don't have enough money. This is just the nature of the product that we're making, unfortunately, and by proxy of that means that it can't be for everybody.
Ultimates. I love Ultimates turtles. And you're right, 450 US. I don't even want to do the math in Canadian. That's like almost 6, 7. I don't know, around there. So
It's all fake money in Canada, anyways.
yeah, it's monopoly money.
Exactly. That's what
I tried to use it in Anaheim. It didn't even work. I'm not gonna sit here and go, I hate Super7 and Brian. I still want to talk to you about it because it's a really awesome looking toy, and if I can make it happen, I can make it happen. It's that's just the product. It's cool. I dig it.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky spot because obviously the goal of making stuff, the reason I like making toys is because I want other people to have them. Like I have
Mhm.
my point of view around it, but it's like I like to share it with other people. That's why we make and sell toys. At the flip side, then you run into places like this is the most extreme end of all the product we make. I mean, it's the most expensive thing I will release the entire calendar year.
Mhm.
And by proxy of it, it's less than 1% of the entire products I'll make for the year. But in doing so, it's going to be a place where it can't be for everybody by the nature of what goes on with how we have to get it made. So it's a tricky because yeah, as a company, it's like I want to make my stuff accessible. That's why I have an open pre-order. Everybody that wants one, we'll give you a month, plenty of time. If you want it, buy it from us. There's no trying to make it cool and limited. There's no trying to make the secondary market jump up to be hot or hyped up or anything. Like if anything, it kills to some degree that sort of instant sellout. Oh my God,
Mhm.
rush to get it. Kind of thing. No, you got a whole month. Like it's cool. I'll order it tomorrow. I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to watch
Yeah.
Ted Lasso tonight. Whatever. You know, it 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 completely. I wanted to say demystifies, but that's not the right word in any way, shape, or form. It's like it completely negates that side of what drives a lot of adult collectibles or toys, which is like there's only so many, it sells out the
Yeah.
day it goes on shelf, or within 3 minutes of it going online, they were all gone. And everybody's, and then they're selling for 3 times that on the
Right.
secondary market. And that's what makes a really hot toy line. Well, we're doing the exact opposite. It's not going to sell out in 3 minutes. It's going to sell out in a month, you know?
Mhm.
So order as many as you want or as few as you want. You got plenty of time and we'll make just the amount that people want. And if it becomes something that is hot later, it's only because more people decided they want it than when it was available. But we're not trying to make it hard on people. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. But then that sort of, to some degree, I think with people will say that flies in the face of a $450 price tag. But the $450 price tag is downstream from making the van that we want to have. It's not like we sat down and said, how can we jack up the price? It's just the price is just the price. That's just what it costs to make some of this shit. And I think it's it's just tricky to understand until you're in it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to your point of making it accessible for people on your website, you also have added, I guess, a payment plan option. It looks like I didn't look at it exactly.
We have
How
a
it
payment
works.
plan option. Big Bad has a payment plan option. Sideshow has a payment plan option. There's
Mhm.
definitely people that have that option available.
Yeah, and that's great because at a $450 tag, you're not rushing. Hey, if it sells out in 2 minutes, if I don't get it now, I gotta buy it. You have a whole month to think about it if that's really the right decision for you, and that's probably a better option for something like this. But it kind of brings us to, to full circle about what I said in the beginning about Designer Con, being there, looking at these artists, obviously very different on the toy manufacturing spectrum of, like, the big companies. A lot of their stuff is very small runs, you know, price point a little bit higher than what you would expect, but it's a few people putting their heart into it and putting their work into that stuff, and therein lies the price point that sometimes is just you can't get it any lower at how many you're making.
I'm sure if this was your first designer con and you're looking at some of these guys, especially some of the vinyl guys, and you're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. It's
Mhm.
like, entry level price point is 150
Yep.
per figure. And it's like, oh, that's 150, that's 200, that's 250. Because same thing, the runs are even that dramatically smaller. And that's even after they've cut out the middleman. Like, you're buying usually from the guy who's making it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's because of that experience, that's where we're at. But I mean, the point of view of that, of like, we're going to make our version of it, and our version isn't for everybody, and the quantities are lower, is okay, is definitely one of those things that we come from in that world. It's not like the prices are that high just because we could get away with it. It's more that it's okay that not everybody buys it. It's okay if you make something that's really unique to you, that only applies to a certain amount of people.
Right.
I'll use a really long form bad analogy here. Okay. And feel free to tune out for the next 3 minutes, anybody watching this. And it's the same thing. Like, go back to being in high school and we were putting out our friends' punk band records. And at the time, it was like $500 would get you 500 7-inches from the pressing plants. You'd have to pay another $500 to record the band, and we photocopy the covers. So, it was $1,000 in, and there were records were $3 each. So the goal was, if we can sell 300 records, 333 records, it's $3 each. Well, then we broke even.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we sold only 300 records and it was 900 and it only cost us $100 to make our record, that's kind of winning. Like, for $100,
for sure.
if you told me I could make 300 records and get them out to people,
Yeah.
that's time well spent. And even if it meant that the other 167 records left over never sold and were sitting in the basement or got recycled or thrown away, or I don't know, whatever, that means we won. And we did it, and we got a thing out. We got all our money back, and we got this record for free, and 300 people bought it. Like, how fucking cool is that? And so many people I know look at the world in a case where they would say, I pressed 500 of these. I sold 333 of them. I barely broke even. I've got 167 in my basement. This was a complete failure. And so every product we've ever made is really driven downstream from that upbringing in punk rock and skateboarding,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's not necessarily about what you make on it monetarily. It's the point is to get the thing made and get it into the world.
Oh, for sure.
And in our point of view, and if that means that we sell so many less than doing it a different way, but it's our version, and there's other people out there that were like, wow, I really love your version of this thing, that's much more interesting to me than dumbing it down and not making it the thing I want just for the hope that I might sell more and make more money. Because generally what I've found over the years is when we've made concessions to this, of like, well, everybody's telling us they want this, and we go, okay, well, why don't we make that? That it sells even worse. And then then it doesn't work, and you're mad that you spent the time and money on it. So, coming backwards is, and I was trying to take that long analogy to say that's sort of the same point of view, though, in making toys, which is very prevalent in the designer toy scene. Most of those guys aren't really making any money on it. but they're getting to make toys. And I
Yeah.
put in all this effort, and yeah, I broke even. Maybe I made a couple $100, but I got to make 4 of my own toys. And
Yeah, for sure.
25 or 50 people bought them and have them in their collection and think they're great. Like, that sense of accomplishment and validation is worth more than all the money already. And all of this started from us as a hobby thing about writing about toys in a magazine, which is like, man, I wish I could make this. And as we made more and more of it, we've just gone down that route. And it was the same with here, which is like, let's make our turtle van.
Yeah,
And our turtle van may not be your turtle van. And that's okay. But for the people that like what we do, I hope they'll buy it and we'll be successful at it and it'll be fun. And then hopefully we can come back and make another one.
that record that you sell and any extra units that you sell, that's profit. You're not sitting there going, oh, I made like, $20, $100. It's like, that's money so you can go put it back and make another one, right?
Exactly. Oh, exactly. Like
Because you're
this
not just going to
record we
stop
broke
at
even
that.
on. Yeah, because you never know how people are going to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
As it becomes sort of art to a degree. It's like, I'm going to use the record analogy. We're going to drive this into the ground. But like that record, I broke even on. The next record, I broke even on. The third record, all of a sudden, whoa, we got to press that 3 times. It sold really well. Now we have enough money to make 3 more records. And that right there is 100% the exact way Super7 grew from a magazine to where it is now. Like we started making recolors of figures, vinyl figures for the magazine as stuff you could order with the magazine. And as those started to work, we just took the money into making the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. And in 2010, we literally took 10 years worth of building and put it all into the Super Shogun Stormtrooper. And it was either like, this is going to work or we're going to go out of business. But I'm going to get a Shogun Warrior Stormtrooper that I've wanted since I was 7 years old. And I'm going to get to make it. And it worked. And afterwards, we're like, we can take the money from the Stormtrooper and make make Boba Fett or Darth Vader, but it'll take us 3 years. Or we can make something else. And I was like, the thing I want is the unproduced alien figures.
Right.
Shown on the cover of Action Figure News and Toy Review. I was like, that's what I want. And so then we worked on making that instead. And we never thought that was going to be popular because who wants low articulation, low likeness figures from the 70s at $25 a figure? It turns out people did want that. And then we've slowly built from there, but we've really, from the get-go, it's always been, it's like, first, let's figure out where break even is. That's the first goal. And if we get past break even, that's where we have the opportunity to grow the business and, or grow our opportunities or whatever. But same thing, something like this is the first calculation is just, here's what it takes to get to break even. This is how many we have to sell. And that's the goal. If we just get to break even, but we get to make this, then we win. We won. We got it out there and made it, and people have it and they like it. That's it. We win.
That's the soundbite right there. That's what you just said right there. Then it's going to be the intro and then this video, because for everyone who's like, oh, 450, they're being greedy and this and that. This is the real motivation kind of behind the whole thing. So I think that was the soundbite right there.
Well, I mean, if we were being smart, we wouldn't make vehicles at all. Why waste the amount of time that we're spending on this thing? Like, I could make 10 more figures that will be way more profitable as a business than this. But I don't want to just make that. I also want to make a gigantic turtle van, with flip-up windows. The flip-up windows are quite honestly my favorite part of the whole thing, as silly as it sounds, because I'm like, oh man, that deep cut reference to those first year VW vans that this whole thing is downstream from. There may not be a single person that gets it, but I get it. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Because that flip up window thing makes no sense anywhere in God's green earth, but yet it was a thing on those vans.
Someone had to do it until it was a bad idea. What I love, Brian, you got the business side of everything, you got the collector's side, and of blending all this into Super 7. I have a, I guess, kind of business question. Your
Mhm.
turtle license. Are you gonna make apparel? I really like
We've
Super
made
7.
some.
Like it. Oh shoot, maybe I should. Oh wait, no. I remember there's.
We've made quite a bit of turtle stuff. We sounds like we should be making some more turtle stuff.
Sounds like I should go do my research.
We
Okay,
haven't
I'm
done it.
gonna have to go off to eBay, I guess.
No, check super7.com first.
I will. Okay.
It's not something people don't come to the super7.com thinking about apparel usually. The stores sell so much apparel. The
Hmm.
stores actually sell more apparel than toys because a regular person that wanders in understands a t-shirt and can buy that.
Yeah.
It's only a certain person that buys the toys.
If someone's going to buy the toys, like I feel like they're going there specifically for it. Like
Yeah,
that's what
you
they're
have a
looking.
very specific person, but a casual person walking down the street that's like, oh, I love turtles, doesn't necessarily buy the toys, but they do buy a t-shirt.
December is around the corner. What can we look forward to from Super 7? What would you like to let people know about?
What would I like to let people know about? My brain is frazzled because I'm literally trying to line plan 2023 right now.
Okay.
Like, what's going on? That it's like,
What
Universal
can I
Monsters
say?
Wave 3 reaction is finally, after 2 years, coming out on Black Friday, which is great. There's a Black Friday deal of buy 5 get 1 free.
Sweet.
That happens Monday. There's a new break-in reaction 3-pack coming out, as well as another Czarface. So we've got some hip hop there. There's a couple more things, fun things before end of year, but we're kind of getting most everything out here in the next couple weeks, and then it's going to be kind of like, okay, we'll lay low until Christmas. We know you got to spend your money elsewhere, kind of thing. There's another. I mean, obviously, Thundercats Wave 5 just got released online,
Mhm.
which is great. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this or anything else. Like if you've got like, oh, I wanted to ask you about this, you don't have to worry about like, oh, I need to run away.
From you guys, Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers is where you have all of my attention. And I've had the opportunity to talk to Kyle about some Power Ranger stuff. I think Ultimates Wave 2.
Yep.
That stuff
Rita
is really
Repulsa is bonkers. That figure is crazy. King Sphinx is crazy too.
yeah. Rita, I don't know how it's probably one of the best Power Ranger toys. Not even Rita figures, like Power Ranger toys
That
in
Rita's
time.
that Rita's on point. Like it's really, really good. I'm not saying that the other stuff is bad, but that Rita's just one where we're like, even for us, we're like, whoa, we killed it on that one.
Are you a James Bond fan?
I am. Some of those movies haven't quite aged as well as we would
Oh
all like,
no,
but
no.
there you go.
Sean Connery, James Bond would be canceled in 2021 very quickly. I've just I'm just had this vision in my head of like an Ultimates James Bond line, because you know how you guys do each wave with like an anchoring, you know?
We've talked about it. We've talked about it because you'd have to definitely have all the villains and stuff.
Hmm.
There's just a lot of logistical trickiness between the people that own Bond
Oh, for sure.
and all the actors and everything. But no, we've talked about it because the same thing. It's like you can't just make Bond. You need to be making Odd Job
Hmm.
and Jaws and everybody. So
It's I'm not trying to pitch anything. I'm not saying are you gonna do it, but like in my head, it's like there's 20 something movies. You got
you,
Bond,
you can
you got
do
a
Bond
villain,
for a long time.
because how Ultimates does it, you have so many accessories and deep cuts. Bond is all about accessories and
Yes.
gadgets. Like it's it's I want to say it's easy, but clearly it's not easy. You've
Yeah, it's
explored.
not easy, but it's a very, very cool one to do.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of really iconic moments.
and there's no Bond merch at this scale. 6-7 inch scale.
There's no Bond merch in most scales.
It's like Funko Pops, which I don't.
Funko Pops, and I think some 12-inch figures. I think that's about it.
Hey, I'm just saying $450 Aston Martin DBS. Easy.
Yeah, you have to make all the Aston Martins, though. That's the problem.
Well,
You have
things
to make
open
the
out.
classic Aston Martin. You'd have to make the new Aston Martin. Oh, that silver blue. Oh, those are such beautiful cars.
Ninja Turtles Ultimates TMNT Party Wagon. Pre-order now, super7.com until December 14th.
There we go.
I'm going to edit out that pause. Brian, man, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and eat all the potatoes that you like.
I will eat all the potatoes. That'll be my Instagram for a week. Potatoes.
Thank you, man. Have a great night.
All right. Take care.
See you later.